Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Chala here, and hey there, we are going to be doing a one-layer card. I am channeling my inner Kelly Latevola, so let's get started with this masking process. I start out by planning out how I want to do this one-layer card and plan my scene, and I have my cardstock here and my awesome Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station, which is really great when you are trying to plan things out and doing some ink blending. It just helps hold your project in place with those great magnets, and it's a nice surface to work on. So what I'm doing here is using the Lawn Fawn Hay There stamp set, and I'm laying out the images and starting to create my scene. And once I get that, I actually stamp them all out with onto sticky note. You can use masking paper, but for this one I just used some sticky notes that I had laying around. And once I stamp them out, then I can actually lay them back down onto my cardstock and start figuring out what I need to stamp first. So I just stamp them out and then fussy cut them out like you see me doing here. So basically what you want to do is once you get everything laid out, whatever you want to be in front, you are going to stamp first. Now this took me some time to figure out. I do make mistakes along the way, but the more you do this process, the more you start doing these one-layer cards and creating scenes, the easier it gets. And it's so much fun. It really is so much fun to challenge yourself to create a one-layer card. So once I have this all set out, I figure out I need my chicken and my chick that's sitting on top of the pig's head. Those need to be stamped down first because those will kind of be the ones that are in front. So from there I go ahead and start laying the stamps down where I want to stamp them. Now I am stamping these with Memento Black Tuxedo ink because I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. So I lay the mask of the chick down as you see there, and then I start planning out how I'm going to stamp my next images. So I know I want the pig and the cow and the chick is going to be on top of the pig's head. So the next is going to be the chick. So I've got the chicken and then the little baby chick. Stamp him down, I lay the mask over top of that chick, and then now I can move on to the cow and the pig. Well, I want the pig to be in front of the cow just a little bit, so I will stamp him next. And I'm laying my stamp down right over top of that mask so that I can line them up and get it just lined up perfectly. Again, making sure I have that mask on that little chick. I stamp the pig down and then lay the mask of the pig down over top. Next we're moving on to that cow. So I laid the mask down first to get an idea of where I want them to be, then I line my stamp up, and then I use my Stamp Perfect to stamp the image. Then I lay that mask again over top of the cow just to make sure I don't stamp anything on top of him. Moving on to the goat. The goat is the next image I want to be in front, so then I will line it up with my mask, remove my mask once I've got it all lined up, stamp him down, then I place that mask back over top of the image, and then we're moving on to the horse. So the horse is going to end up being behind the goat. I line it up with that mask that I put down, and then stamp it down. Now I replace the mask over top of my horse to protect him, and then I want the barn in the background, and I need to bring in my sentiment to make sure I'm lining up my sheep in the right area. But then I just simply lay those stamps down, pick them up with my Stamp Perfect, remove the masks, stamping them with the ink and down, and then putting the masks back on. It's a continuous process that we do. And then where I made my mistake was with the fence, but hopefully you won't notice it. Let's see if you guys can figure out where I made my mistake. I'm going to move on here to the actual process of getting the background color down, and how I do that is I bring in my life-changing blender brush here, and this is the Tumbled Glass Distress ink. I want this to be the sky, and I used the stitched borders there. I think those are the stitched hillside borders from Lawn Fawn to create this mask for my ink blending. So once I get all that blended down, I'm going to actually flip the stamp, or sorry, the stamp. I'm going to flip the little template over here so that I can do the grass portion. So I just created this kind of stencil myself with the Lawn Fawn Stitched Hillside die, and now I'm just going to rotate it and I can do the ink blending for the grass. So again, I have all my masks down and they're protecting our stamped images, the images that I want to later color with Copic markers. You can use Spectrum Noir, whatever your favorite coloring medium is, pencil crayons, whatever works for you. I like Copic markers, so that's what I'm going to use. Now I'm going to just clean off that blender brush just on my little rag here, and then I will bring in the color that I want to use for the grass. And I can't remember what color I ended up going with. We'll probably see it here. If I had to guess, it would be Mold Lawn, because that just seems like the best color to use. And I'll have to take a look at that, and I'll link them all on the blog anyways, over at the Scrap and Stamp blog, so make sure that you head over there. The link will be down in the description. This time, I'm not using the Life Changer blending brushes. I'm just going to use the regular blending tool to do this. And I want to make sure, because this is a sticky note, it's not fully sticky on all edges of the mask. I want to be very careful that I don't move my masks when I'm blending. So making sure I get a nice amount of ink, and I'm going to be starting somewhat off my project just to make sure I don't get that harsh circle, and then bringing the ink down onto the project. I really encourage you to take a look at the stamp sets that you have, of what you could use to create really cool scenes. Like I said, I like to try and plan them out ahead of time. Using those, creating those masks really helps you to move items around and kind of figure out how you want to create your scene. So I'm going to jump ahead here so we don't have to sit through the whole process. I do kind of come back in and darken up some areas of that tumbled glass just to give it looks that there are clouds in the sky. And you can see that all my masks are kind of inked up. That's okay, I can still keep them and use them for later projects. But this is really where the magic happens. This is what I love. It's like Christmas morning when you pull these masks off. So I'm going to use my reversible tweezers here, and I'm going to lift up these masks and look at that very carefully here, because I do want to be able to save these and reuse them. And you can see that our images have been protected from that distress ink. And again, I want to be careful so that I don't rip the masks or my paper. The sticky note paper is usually pretty good. I'll also link to some really good masking paper over that you can get over at the Scrap and Stamp blog. So I've removed the cow. Again, you can see that I'm going to go ahead and place that on my stamp packaging here so that I can keep it and use it for another project. All right, moving on to that, I believe it's the chicken here, yeah, and look at that. So you can actually see that he is definitely looking like he is in front of the cow, and that's because we stamped him down first. And now the pig. And I'm going to keep that guy as well. And onto the chick, we're just gently pulling this up. Again, a craft pick or reversible tweezers is a really great tool to have when you're doing these one-layer cards. And I'm sure you guys have seen Kelly Latevola's work. She's just so amazing and so inspiring, and I love that she can create all these amazing scenes in one layer. And so that's really what I was trying to do here, is challenge myself. Because typically what I'll do is I'll create a card, I'll stamp and color all the images, and then I'll fussy cut them out and then kind of layer them that way. But this time I wanted to see if I could do that one layer card that she does. Yeah, she's just so inspiring. So again, just really gently pulling up our masks here. Now some of these fence masks I don't keep. I only keep a few of them, but because I think I ripped a couple along the way here. Again, just gently pulling them up. And that sheep, I love how he looks like he's kind of jumping over the fence. He's just so much fun. And I'm a farm girl at heart. I used to live on a farm, and I'd wake up every morning and help my dad milk cows, so this really brought back some fond memories for me. Alright, so we're going to lift off these last fences here, and I don't know if you can see it, but when I lift off the barn here, you'll see I lift it off. I do have a little bit of overlapping of this. Is it this one? Oh no, it's the fences on the far right. I don't know if you can see that, but I did have a little boo-boo in how I laid down my masks, and I do have some of that fence that didn't mask properly, but I don't think you can really notice it. It's just on the right hand side there, but I think it looks really great. It turned out really well for my first time, doing this one layer project. So I'll go ahead and keep those, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring out the Copic markers and just start coloring. And again, I like to use, go from like the lightest color to the darkest color and then back down again to blend it all out. So I'm not going to show you the entire process of coloring because it took me quite a while. It was a really great way for me to just zone out in that whole coloring process, but I had a lot of fun, and I encourage you to practice with whatever coloring medium you are going to use. But I'll jump ahead here. You can see that I've colored it. I'm using this My Favorite Things wonky stitched border. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know that this is one of my favorite border die cuts to use. So I go ahead and pull that out. I am using my purple tape just to secure it to my project. I know that this tape will not rip. If you're concerned, you just go ahead and put it on the back of your hand a couple times and it takes that extra stick away. I'm using my Gemini Junior to die cut this out. If you do not have a Gemini Junior, it is well worth its money, in my opinion. Save up for it, it's a great one. I do have some acetate here on top of the card, and what that does is it allows me to line up my sentiment and stamp it on top of the acetate to make sure that I've got it lined up nicely. It's a great trick to use. So you'll see that I'm going to use this Versaclair Nocturne ink. That's my favorite sentiment ink to use. You can get that over at Scrap and Stamp. And I like the placement of that, so that I can go ahead and just wipe that off of the acetate and go ahead and stamp it down again. This one I actually moved a bit. It was a little bit high for me with that stitching, so I repositioned it again, and I can stamp it down on that acetate. Take a look. Do I like it there? Yeah, that looks good. So I'll wipe it off and go ahead, remove that acetate, and stamp it down onto my project. Because the last thing I want at this point is to ruin all this hard work that I've done with all the masking and coloring and ink blending. So that's just a handy little trick for you. Alright, so there is our one layer panel, and I just back that onto some black licorice, Lawn Fawn black licorice cardstock. This is an A2 size card, and I just mounted that to a white card base, just using some tape runner. I'll adhere that to the back and line it up to give it that nice black border. And what is the rule? I think it's if you get 3 of the corners lined up nicely, the 4th one should lay in place nicely. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to put my sentiment on the inside. So it's going to say, "Hey there" on the outside, "Happy birthday from the whole herd." Again, I'm using that acetate to stamp on top to make sure that I get my sentiment exactly how I want it. Once I know that it's lined up and it looks good, I can wipe the acetate clean and then go ahead and stamp it down onto my card base. I think this is one of the favorite tricks that I've learned over the past couple years, or however long I've been making cards, is this whole stamp on acetate first to make sure that it's lined up. It's saved me on so many projects. So once that's done, that really finishes off our card. It was a fun one-layer card, again, channeling that inner Kelly Latevola. She's so fantastic and inspiring. Go ahead and check out her blog. I'm sure you already have. All the products that I'm using you can get over at Scrap and Stamp. I'll link to everything there, so make sure you head on over to the blog to check that out. Thanks for joining me today, guys, and have a great day.